Hello everyone, warm welcome to Regulatory Bodies YouTube channel by Testbook. My name is Madhav. I welcome you all in a very important session, and that is on the monetary policy. We all know that monetary policy is revised on bi-monthly basis. So the last revision was done in April 2025. Now we have the second monetary policy for the current financial year, that is 2025-26, which has been announced on 6th of June 2025. So before we start the discussion on the Monetary Policy Committee statement or report which has been presented recently, this I would say the statement by the RBI governor was live at 10 a.m. and it's 12 when I am live for you in order to decode the same so that you can understand it pretty well and you can utilize this information for your upcoming examination. So I won't take much time of yours, but before I start, may I have a reply in the comment section that I'm audible, visible, everything is fine. We are good to go so that we can begin the discussion without any further delay. If you want to download the PDF of this session, which is obviously really very important and it's going to help you a lot, that was available on my Telegram channel. You can join this particular channel, scan the code and you can download the PDF. Now, what all things we are going to cover in this particular session? First, I'll give you a glimpse what is Monetary Policy Committee, and even I'll discuss with you the names of the 6 members of the Monetary Policy Committee, out of which I will be focusing on one of the member, which is the newest member into this particular committee. Secondly, I will be discussing about the latest updates which have been done, and then we will be discussing what is the impact on GDP growth estimates as per the current scenario. We'll discuss the inflation updates, we'll discuss the development and regulatory policies. The most importantly, there was a statement used in this particular discussion itself, in this particular policy itself, which talks about the last mile of disinflation. So in the statement, Sanjay Malhotra ji has used this term, that is last mile of disinflation. So I will be discussing that with you, and in the end I will be discussing some of the takeaways from the governor's speech. Actually अगर आप RBI की वेबसाइट देखेंगे तो RBI की वेबसाइट में आपके पास दो notifications hai. First one, it says, the first notification, if you open up, I don't know अगर आपने RBI की वेबसाइट को चेक किया है या नहीं. The first says governor statement and second is monetary policy statement. तो governor statement में जो points important है या जो areas important है, जो key takeaways है, which you can use for writing a good descriptive answer, that I have shortlisted for you, and even the data which has been shared in the governor's statement, that has also been shortlisted separately, and that would be the last part of this particular session. ठीक है जी, start करें, चलो सर. So let's begin the discussion. Here we go with the first point. The first point is, so what is Monetary Policy Committee? If I talk about Monetary Policy Committee, sir, it is a statutory body which was set up on the recommendation of Urjit Patel committee, and this committee is responsible for finalizing the monetary policy rates. And the main agenda of this particular policy, committee is to control the inflation rates, along with that manage the growth rates of the economy. So this is the main agenda. Of this particular committee. This committee comprises of 6 members, out of which 3 are RBI officials and rest 3 are the eminent economists. These eminent economists, they are appointed by the government. So government set up a committee under the chairmanship of cabinet secretary, and that particular committee recommend the names of the eminent economists in the country who will be the part of Monetary Policy Committee, and they are appointed for the span of 4 years. This committee is headed by none other than the governor of RBI. That means governor of RBI is the ex officio chairman of the Monetary Policy Committee, and on that particular position, because he is the governor of RBI, no, because he is the chairman of Monetary Policy Committee, he has given the statement today at 10 a.m. where he has disclosed all the initiatives which have been taken recently. Got it? Now, This Monetary Policy Committee has been mentioned under Section 45ZB of RBI Act 1934, because of which I say it has a statutory status and it possesses 6 members. If I talk about this particular committee, so this particular committee meet at least 4 times in a year, and in order to call a meet as an official meet, minimum 4 members are need to be present. Along with that, the decision in this particular committee is taken with the help of simple majority, that is 50% plus 50% of members present plus 1. So if all the members are present, then we say total number of members are 6. If all the 6 members are present, so 50% of 6 is 3, 3 plus 1 is 4. So if 4 individuals, 4 votes are in favor, then that particular policy will be implemented. And if there is a situation of tie, then in this particular case, when there is a situation of tie, then the chairperson of this particular committee, who is the governor of RBI, will cast one extra vote, and this extra vote is casted not because he is the member of the committee, but because he is the chairman of the committee, because as a member he has already casted a vote. The extra vote is casted because of the chairmanship, so he casts the extra vote in order to overcome the issue related to this particular conflict, that is the tie position. Now, if I talk about the members, sir, as I said, it includes 3 members from RBI and rest 3 members are appointed by Government of India for the tenure of 4 years. The latest appointment of 3 members has been done, and these are the 3 new members or 3 new eminent economists who have been appointed as the members of Monetary Policy Committee. So if I talk about their names, first we will talk about the RBI officials. In the case of RBI officials, the first one we have the RBI Governor Sanjay Malhotra ji. Second one is the newly appointed Deputy Governor of RBI, that is Poonam Gupta ji, who has taken over the charge of Department of Monetary Policy. So whosoever is the head of Department of Monetary Policy is the member of the Monetary Policy Committee. I'm talking about the Deputy Governor. So out of 4, whichever Deputy Governor is the head of Department of Monetary Policy will be the part of Monetary Policy Committee. The third member is the Executive Director, that is Rajiv Ranjan. So these are the 3 members of RBI. And if I talk about the newly appointed 3 members, one is Nagesh Kumar, then we have S. Bhattacharya, and the last one we have Ram Singh. So today the monetary policy which we are going to discuss, for this particular monetary policy, the decision has been taken, but in this case this decision was supported by 5 members. This decision was supported by 5 members out of 6, which means S. Bhattacharya was the only one who has not supported the decision, who has not supported the policy rate change which has been done. But obviously एक के मना करने से कुछ होगा नहीं, because 5 were in the favor, and because of this, these 5 members who were in the favor, this decision has been taken, this decision has been implemented. Now we'll discuss this particular decision. So what is the decision? The decision is, whenever we talk about monetary policy, we have in monetary policy we have quantitative as well as qualitative tools. So if I talk about the quantitative tools, in case of quantitative tools, there is a term which we call it as Repo rates, or we call it as policy rates. We all know that we say RBI is the banker's bank, and if RBI is the banker's bank, RBI accept surplus funds from the bank as a deposit. RBI provide loan to the banks whenever required, and against this lending and borrowing, RBI charge as well as pay certain rate of interest. So the policy rate is Repo rate. This is the rate at which bank borrows the funds from RBI for short term, generally 24 hours, 48 hours, and this borrowing is done in order to match, or in order to overcome the mismatch in the overnight balances. So this Repo rate is also termed as repurchasing agreement, because in this case bank borrow the funds from RBI, and against the borrowing bank park government securities with RBI, and it is a repurchasing agreement, which means on the completion of the loan, on the repayment of principal, on the repayment of interest, bank will repurchase the same government securities from RBI. But the best part is, as per the latest external benchmark lending rate, which is the method used by scheduled commercial banks or used by the scheduled banks in order to decide their lending rates. In the external benchmark lending rate, it has been clearly stated by RBI that banks, they can decide their lending rates with respect to the 4 benchmark rates. Out of those 4 benchmark rates, one of the rate is repo rate. So it's quite obvious, the moment RBI change the repo rate, it will transmit to the public, because if the repo rate changes, bank lending rates will change, and due to change in bank lending rates, the credit capacity, the credit capability, as well as the credit flow in the market will change. So recently RBI has reduced the repo rate by 50 basis point. So repo rate has been reduced by 50 basis points. So from 6%, repo rate has been reduced to 5.5%. This is the third time in the row that this rate cut has been done, because the first rate cut was done in the month of February 2025. Second rate cut was done in April 2025. Now the third rate cut is done in June 2025. So here the rate cut was 0.25%, here the rate cut was 0.25%, and here the rate cut is 0.50%. So we can say that in last 6 months, February, March, April, May, June, in last 4 months, RBI has cut down its repo rate by 1%, that is 100 basis point, which is a huge number. And why this has been done? So this has been done because of n number of reasons. If I talk about these n number of reasons, guys, these n number of reasons include the first point. The first point is the current situation of the global economy. The current situation of the global economy, we talk about that the global economy is fragile as well as it is highly fluid. The uncertainty around the global economic outlook has somehow forced Monetary Policy Committee to reduce its repo rate in order to boost the growth rates of the economy. देखो, जब भी कभी RBI इन रेट्स को रिवाइज करता है, उसके पीछे का लॉजिक क्या होगा? सर, ऑब्वियसली टू कंट्रोल द इन्फ्लेशन. लेकिन अगर आप ध्यान से देखें तो इन्फ्लेशन रेट्स तो ऑलरेडी ऑल टाइम लो है, एंड इन्फ्लेशन रेट्स आर वेरी क्लोज टू द कंट्रोल्ड रेट. कंट्रोल रेंज क्या है सर? रेंज इज 4% plus minus 2%. I'm talking about CPI control inflation rates, which comes in the range of 2 to 6%. And the most appropriate rate, that is the mid of this range, that is 4%. और इंडिया का जो current inflation rate है, that is closest to 4%. Then what is the need of cutting down these rates? So sir, the need to cut down these rates is very obvious. That is to boost the economic growth. So in order to boost the economic growth, RBI has cut down the repo rates, which will result in increase in credit flow in the market, which will result in increase in money supply, which will result in increase in demand, and this increase in demand will result in increase in production. It will push the GDP growth of the nation. As I say, RBI's repo rate is the policy rate. If you are changing the policy rate, it will impact the other rates as well. So standing deposit facility has also fell down by 50 basis point, which was earlier 5.75%. It has been reduced to 5.25%. Marginal standing facility as well as bank rate, which are luckily, fortunately, unfortunately, unluckily, they are equal. So their value has also reduced. The rate has also reduced from 6.25% to 5.75%. Is this point clear, guys? क्यों इन रेट्स को कम किया गया, किस वजह से कम किया गया, मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी कमेटी क्या होती है, मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी कमेटी के कितने मेंबर्स हैं, कितने मेंबर्स ने इस रेट कट को सपोर्ट किया, कौन था जिन्होंने सपोर्ट नहीं किया? सर, वो है आपके एस भट्टाचार्य. लेकिन एस भट्टाचार्य ने क्या कहा कि सर, मैं ये नहीं कह रहा रेट कट मत करो, मैं कह रहा हूं रेट कट करो, लेकिन मेरे हिसाब से रेट कट करो कितना? 0.25%, 0.25% कम करो. लेकिन बाकी सब मेंबर्स ने कहा नहीं सर, हमें कम करना होगा 50 बेसिस पॉइंट या 0.50%. तो 5 members, they were in favor to reduce the repo rate by 50 basis point. Only one was not in the favor, that is S. Bhattacharya, who wanted that the repo rate should be cut down, but it should be cut down up to 25 basis point. Clear? चलो, अगला point काफी ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है, that is accommodative to neutral. ये point 3-4 बार हम पढ़ चुके हैं और इस पॉइंट को लेकर काफी ज्यादा कंफ्यूजन भी रही आप सबके दिमाग में जब मैंने स्पेशली इस पॉइंट को डिस्कस किया था इन आवर एनुअल स्टेटमेंट और द एनुअल रिपोर्ट ऑफ आरबीआई. सो आई वुड लाइक टू डिस्कस दिस पॉइंट इन मच डिटेल. तो इस पॉइंट पे मैं वापस आऊंगा, लेकिन उससे पहले अगर मुझसे कोई पूछे, अगर उससे पहले मुझे कोई पूछे कि सर व्हाट डू यू अंडरस्टैंड बाय द वर्ड मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी स्टांस. स्टांस का मतलब क्या होता है? स्टैंड. स्टैंड का मतलब ओपिनियन, स्टैंड का मतलब मेरा थॉट, मेरा एजेंडा, दैट इज स्टांस. सो इट रेफर्स टू द स्टैंड पॉइंट और आउटलुक और गाइडेंस ऑफ द सेंट्रल बैंक टुवर्ड्स द डायरेक्शन ऑफ मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी. कि भैया मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी को दिमाग में रखते हुए, इन्फ्लेशन और इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ को दिमाग में रखते हुए आपका क्या स्टैंस है, आपका क्या स्टैंड है, आपका क्या ओपिनियन है, आपका क्या एजेंडा है. एजेंडा कुड बी फर्स्ट, you want to reduce the inflation rates. Agenda could be you want to boost the economic growth. Agenda would be you want the inflation rates to remain same. You want the inflation rates to increase. तो ये सारे आपके क्या है सर? These all are your agendas. These all are your stands. And on the basis of these stands, different types of stances are defined. On the basis of your stance, different types of stances are defined. So let's try to understand, let's try to decode these stances. So the first one, the first stance which I have for you all is that is known as accommodative stance. अगर मुझसे कोई पूछे कि accommodative stance का मतलब क्या, सर accommodative stance उस stance को कहा जाता है जब monetary policy committee focus on economic growth, monetary policy committee focus on economic growth and how to achieve these economic growth. So this economic growth can be achieved by increasing the money supply. How money supply can be increased? So money supply can be increased by decreasing the policy rates. By decreasing the policy rates. So अगर हमसे कोई पूछे कि सर what do you understand by the word accommodative stance? Sir accommodative stance का मतलब है it is a scenario in which RBI or the central bank of the country is willing to cut the interest rate, and accommodative stance पे in case of or during the accommodative stance, central bank do not go for rate hike. कुछ भी हो जाए सेंट्रल बैंक रेट को इंक्रीज तो करेगा ही नहीं, या तो रैपो रेट्स को डिक्रीज करेगा, और अगर लगेगा कि डिक्रीज करने की जरूरत नहीं है देन आरबीआई और द सेंट्रल बैंक विल मेंटेन दीज रेट्स कांस्टेंट. वी कॉल इट एज accommodative stance. तो जो सेंट्रल बैंक है इट टिपिकली adopts the accommodative policy when growth needs are much important and inflation is not the immediate concern. So whenever economic growth is the immediate concern at that particular moment, your central bank follows the accommodative stance. तो अगर आपने ध्यान से देखा हो, RBI has announced the accommodative stance. RBI has announced its stance, that is accommodative stance, in February 2025. इसीलिए फरवरी में भी रेट कट किया, अप्रैल में भी रेट कट किया. So that is the reason RBI has cut down the rates in April. RBI has cut down the rates in February and even RBI has cut down the rates in June. So इन तीनों ही monetary policies में rate cut किया गया because RBI was following the accommodative stance. But now RBI is saying कि भैया in last 4 months I have already reduced my repo rate by 100 basis point. Now I have no room to further decrease it. I have no room to further boost the economic growth by reducing the repo rate, and that is the reason RBI has shifted its stance from accommodative stance to neutral stance. अब मुझसे को पूछे न्यूट्रल स्टैंस का क्या मतलब है? सर न्यूट्रल स्टैंस का मतलब है वेयर आरबीआई इज न्यूट्रल. इन दिस केस आरबीआई can increase the repo rate if required. RBI can maintain the repo rate constant if required. RBI can decrease the repo rate if required. So here RBI will go with the flow. RBI has no pre-mindset कि भैया मुझे इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ को बूस्ट करना है, मुझे ग्रोथ को बूस्ट करना है, आई शुड डिक्रीज माई रेपो रेट. वो माइंडसेट नहीं है. That is नॉट द केस और दिस माइंडसेट इज नॉट देयर विद आरबीआई। ठीक है जी। अब इस केस में दूसरा जो पॉइंट आया, दूसरा पॉइंट क्या कहता है? सो दूसरा पॉइंट इज, और आई वुड से द सेकंड टाइप ऑफ स्टैंस इज हॉकिश स्टैंस। हॉकिश स्टैंस का मतलब है द टॉप प्रायोरिटी ऑफ बैंक इज टू कीप द इन्फ्लेशन लो। सो टॉप प्रायोरिटी ऑफ द बैंक इज टू कीप द इन्फ्लेशन लो। अब इन्फ्लेशन को लो रखना, that is the top priority, and because of this top priority, what will RBI do? Sir, RBI will increase the repo rate. So when RBI is following the hawkish stance, that means RBI will increase the repo rates, RBI will increase the policy rates in order to decrease the money supply, in order to decrease the demand in the market. ठीक है जी। न्यूट्रल स्टांस I have already discussed with you. What is a neutral stance? There is no need to discuss this point again. I hope it is clear. The last but not the least is that is dovish stance. Dovish stance का मतलब क्या होता है? Sir, it is taken when the economy is not growing. Government wants to guard against deflation, and there is a need to push the economy. There is a need to push the economy. So low interest rate, customers to take credit from the bank. So basically ये situation है when low economic growth है plus low inflation rates है. Economy is on the verge to be declared as economy is on the verge to be declared under deflation. So in order to avoid or in order to safeguard the economy from this particular situation, RBI or the central bank follows the dovish stance. लेकिन न्यूट्रल का मतलब भैया RBI is neutral, अगर जरूरत पड़ेगी तो बढ़ा लेंगे, जरूरत पड़ेगी तो कांस्टेंट रख लेंगे, जरूरत पड़ेगी तो कम कर लेंगे. वी आर नॉट कमिंग अप विद एनी प्री माइंडसेट दैट वेदर वी हैव टू बूस्ट द इन्फ्लेशन, वेदर वी हैव टू कंट्रोल द इन्फ्लेशन, वेदर वी हैव टू बूस्ट द इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ. नथिंग. वी आर नॉट कमिंग अप विद एनी काइंड ऑफ माइंडसेट. वी विल बी डूइंग व्हाटएवर रिक्वायर्ड. अब मैं आपको थोड़ी सी स्टोरी यहां पे और सुना देता हूं. द स्टोरी सेज October 2024. In October 2024, RBI shifted from accommodative stance to neutral stance. Then in February 2025, RBI shifted from neutral stance to accommodative stance. Now in June 2025 again RBI shifted from accommodative stance to neutral stance, क्योंकि accommodative stance ने अपना काम कर दिया. पिछले 4 महीने में रेपो रेट को कम कर दिया. कितना? 1%. इससे ज्यादा अब आरबीआई की कैपेसिटी नहीं है रेपो रेट को कम करने की. अब जब आरबीआई की कैपेसिटी ही नहीं है रेपो रेट को कम करने की, सो देयर इज नो नीड, देयर इज नो बेनिफिट ऑफ फॉलोइंग द अकोमोडेटिव स्टांस. ठीक है जी, ये मैंने डेटा आपको दे दिया, ये आप पढ़ लेना, मजा आ जाएगा, चीजें क्लियर हो जाएगी. अगली बार स्टांस रिलेटेड कोई क्वेश्चन आए तो आप आराम से आगे बढ़कर आंसर दे सकते हैं कि हाँ भाई हमें ये पढ़ा दिया गया है. चले आगे. अब देखो, अगर मैं थोड़ा सा इसको पिक्टोरल वे में दिखाऊं तो ये क्या है? सर, दिस इज द सिचुएशन. This is the situation where inflation rates are decreased, and in order to decrease the inflation rates or in order to control the inflation rates, policy rates are reduced by RBI. So when RBI decreases the policy rates, वो क्या होगा? So that is hawkish stance. And when RBI increases the repo rates to control the inflation, we call it as what? So we call it as calibrated tightening. We call it as the cut in the repo rate which is required in order to control the inflation. ठीक है जी, क्लियर हो गया पॉइंट, समझ आ गया. मुझे लगता है सारी चीजें क्लियर हो गई. अगर यहां तक क्लियर है तो गिव मी अ थम्स अप so that I can move ahead. The next point is Monetary Policy Committee meeting which was held from 4th to 6th of June. It is the 55th meeting, and in this meeting they discussed about the uncertainty around the global economic outlook, which is resulting in weakening the sentiments, and it is resulting lower global growth prospect. So global growth and trade projection has been revised downward by the multilateral agencies. So the multilateral agencies, they have revised the global outlook. And if I talk about the global GDP estimates, then I would talk about OECD. According to OECD, global growth forecast has been reduced by 20 basis point, which is now 2.9%. According to IMF, the global growth rate projection has been reduced to 2.8%, and for 2026 it is 3%. So by almost all the by almost all the multilateral agencies. They have reduced the global growth rate, and it's quite obvious global growth rate is reduced due to quite obvious reasons. What are those obvious reasons? So the obvious reasons are geopolitical tensions, trade tariffs, or I would say the trade tariff war, as well as the fragmentation or geographical fragmentation of the economy, which is resulting in all these kind of scenarios. According to National Statistical Office, GDP growth for the financial year 2024-25 is estimated to be 6.5%, which was 9.2% in the financial year 2023-24. लेकिन क्वेश्चन है कि सर 2025-26 के ग्रोथ रेट की क्या कहानी है? So as per RBI latest monetary policy, it states that the GDP growth rate for 2025-26 is going to be the same 6.5%. Last monetary policy में भी same projection था 6.5% का. But the question is, why RBI is expecting that the GDP will grow by 6.5%? First reason is due to adequate private consumption, as well as fixed capital formation. So एक तरफ से जो capital formation है, that is going on in a fixed manner. Private consumption is adequate. Even government has reduced its tax rates, or I would say government has reduced the income tax on the individuals, which will undoubtedly increase your disposable income, which will increase your private consumption. Second point is sustained rural economic activity. So rural areas economic activities are doing well. They are on good pace, which is going to boost the rural demand. Along with this, we have continuous expansion in the service sector, which is reviving the urban demand. Investment activity, it is expected to improve in light of higher capacity utilization. It will improve because of the good balance sheets of the financial as well as non-financial corporates, and the investment activity will boost due to the government capital expenditure increase. So if investment is increasing, growth of the nation will undoubtedly increase. The next point is India has recently concluded its free trade agreement with UK, which will boost India's import and exports, which will again boost the GDP growth rates. Last but not the least is, if I talk about the agriculture sector prospect or growth prospect, it remains bright. And this bright growth prospect is supported by above normal monsoon, which we are expecting this year, as well as the resilient, self-dependent, capable allied activities. Allied activities means I'm talking about dairy farms, fishery farms, poultry farms, and whatnot. But still there are certain issues which are impacting Indian economy to grow at its maximum value. The reason is spillovers from the geopolitical tensions. So the geopolitical tensions, they are not confined to the other nations only. The spillovers or the impact of these geopolitical tensions are impacting the Indian economy as well. The trade war impacting the global trade. Decrease in global demand is impacting the India's import and export. The weather related uncertainties has come up with a downside risk to growth. That means it has impacted the growth of the globe or global economy, which undoubtedly impact the Indian economy as well. So keeping in both the points in mind, that is, what are the factors which support India's economic growth, what are the factors which are challenging India's economic growth. On that particular basis, we expect that India's real GDP is going to grow at a rate of 6.5% for 2025-26. Now the next point is, what is the projection for CPI? If I talk about the projection for CPI, sir, in the month of March, inflation has decreased. Even in the month of April, inflation has decreased. CPI projected for the financial year 2025-26 is 3.7%, which was projected 4% in the last monetary policy, that was in April 2025. In April 2025, we were expecting that Indian economy will record an inflation rate, that is CPI, Consumer Price Index inflation rates, around 4%, but now the projection has been revised and it has been decreased to 3.7%. It has been decreased to 3.7%. Now, after presenting the monetary policy initiatives, monetary policy committee decisions, then while presenting this particular statement, Sanjay Malhotra ji, he has given certain rationals, certain, we can use it as a conclusion as well as support that why Monetary Policy Committee has taken these decisions. So Monetary Policy Committee has taken this decision of decreasing the repo rate because inflation has softened over the period of time. So we have witnessed in the last 6 months that the inflation rates has reduced, and which was above 6%. The inflation rate which was above 6%, now it has fallen down even below 4%, even below the most appropriate inflation rate. So which means if inflation rates are softening, then inflation is not a point of concern. The concern point is growth. So in order to achieve the growth estimates, we want to push the demand, we want to push the production. In order to push demand, in order to push supply, we need to increase the credit availability in the market, and in order to increase the credit availability in the market, repo rates have been reduced for the third consecutive time. It has also said that for the near and medium term scenarios, India is confident enough because our headline inflation is going to perform well, as food inflation remains soft, as well as we are expecting that our core inflation will also remain within the range, as we are expecting the easing of international commodity prices. Undoubtedly, core inflation was increased in the past few months because of the increase in gold prices in the global economy, but we are expecting that these prices will ease out over the period of time as the economic growth, as the economic trade or global trade will push up. All these things will ease out over the period of time. The next says growth remains lower than our aspirations. So he said in the statement itself कि जो हमने सोचा था उतना हमें growth rate नहीं मिला. We were expecting that Indian economy will grow above 6.5, around 6.8, 6.9%, but we were not able to achieve it, and we will not be able to achieve it for the given financial year. The reason is quite obvious, that is challenging global environment as well as increased uncertainty in the global economy. It is very important to stimulate domestic private consumption. So RBI governor has said that it is very important that we should try to promote domestic private investment, domestic private consumption, as well as we should promote the investment through the policy levers so that we can maintain this growth momentum. Otherwise, it will be very tough to achieve the growth in the tough times if we consider the global scenarios. The next point says Monetary Policy Committee will clearly assess the economic data. He said that Monetary Policy Committee will now assess the economic data more closely, because we know that we are in a situation of fast changing global economic situation, and due to this fast changing global economic situation, our macroeconomic parameters are evolving, and in order to maintain the right growth and inflation balance, monetary policy need to take proactive actions, and in order to take those proactive actions, Monetary Policy Committee will assess the economic data pretty closely. Is this point clear? Is this point clear? So each and every point related to your Monetary Policy Committee, if it is clear, just give me yes sir, so that we can conclude the discussion. If it is clear till this point, just give me yes sir. I want everyone to reply, please. So the detailed monetary policy meeting minutes will be out on 20th of June 2025, and the next meeting will be held after 2 months, that is in August 4th to 6th of August 2025. ठीक है जी. अब इस सेशन का सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट जो आपको डिस्क्रिप्टिव आंसर राइटिंग में बहुत मदद करेगा, दैट इज गवर्नर स्पीच टेकअवेज. तो गवर्नर हैज स्टार्टेड हिज स्पीच, और जब गवर्नर साहब ने अपनी स्पीच शुरू की तो उन्होंने स्टार्टिंग में कहा, और उन्होंने स्टार्टिंग में जो बात की वो बात की थी किसके बारे में, रिगार्डिंग दी ग्लोबल डिस्टर्बेंसेस, कि ग्लोबल सिनेरियोज क्या हैं, ग्लोबल डिस्टर्बेंसेस क्या हैं, और उन ग्लोबल डिस्टर्बेंसेस के पीछे क्या रीजन है, क्या लॉजिक है, उसके बारे में उन्होंने बात करनी शुरू की. ही स्टार्टेड अ स्टेटमेंट जहां पे ही टॉक्ड अबाउट ग्लोबल बैकड्रॉप, ही टॉक्ड अबाउट फ्रेगमेंटेशन, ही टॉक्ड अबाउट ट्रेड वॉर और ट्रेड इश्यूज, जियोपॉलिटिकल टेंशंस और ये सारी चीजें. द मोमेंट ही सेट द स्टेज, जैसे उन्होंने स्टेज को सेट किया कि हाँ यार, वर्ल्ड इज नॉट डूइंग वेल बिकॉज देयर इज growth economic as well as financial fragmentation which is reshaping the global economy, जहाँ पे उन्होंने बात की about the complex interconnectedness with the financial system. He talked about elevated debt levels of the countries, growing influence of the frontier technologies and rising financial stability concerns. He talked about this. जैसे इन्होंने इस डिस्कशन को खत्म किया, then उन्होंने कहा Indian economy is still doing well. Indian economy is still doing well. And the moment he said Indian economy is still doing well, he came up with the statement, Indian economy presents a picture of, or Indian economy presents a better picture on the global level. And if I talk about this global level picture, it is better because of three things. One is strength, second one is stability, third one is opportunity. तो अगर कोई ऐसा descriptive question आए जहां पे आपको ये लिखना हो that Indian economy has performed well during these global tough times because Indian economy has presented a picture of strength, stability and opportunity. Now you must be wondering, so what kind of strength you are talking about? Strength comes from strong balance sheet. So India, or I would say the 5 major sectors of India, possessed strong balance sheet, which include strong balance sheet of the corporates, strong balance sheet of the banks, strong balance sheet of the household, strong balance sheet of the government and strong balance sheet of the external sector, because our exports, they have increased over the period of time. In the month of April itself, our merchandise exports has also increased, which has given a positive push to the external sector balance sheet. Second term is stability. How Indian economy is more stable than the world? So Indian economy is more stable than the world in all the three fronts. One is price stability, financial stability as well as political stability. So providing policy and economic certainty in this dynamic evolving global economic order provides stability to the government, because government, or I would say India, has a political, or India is politically stable. India is witnessing a price stability as well as financial stability. There are no liquidity issues, there are no liquidity crisis, there are no situation of running behind forex reserve, nothing like that, because India is had a good amount of forex reserves to survive in these tough times. Third is India is not only showcasing its strength, India is not only stable, India is also a land of opportunity during this tough time. Why India is termed as a land of opportunity during this tough time? Because India offers immense opportunities to the investors through 3Ds. What they says? So he says 3Ds. These are very, I would say, classic terms he has used, which will help you to write a fancy answer, a good answer. So these 3Ds means India has a good demography. Demography means India has one of the world's largest young population, even the skilled population, which will support the industrial as well as the service sector in the economy. Then digitalization. India is a nation which is getting digitalized pretty fast, especially if I talk about the financial digitalization, it is at its peak in India. And then we have domestic demand. India has huge domestic demand, which results in huge private consumption, which is pushing the Indian economy rather than depending upon the foreign demands, rather than depending upon the foreign requirements. This is the first thing which you can include in your descriptive writing regarding the strength of India, or regarding the Indian economic situation during the global tough times. Second part is the data which has been shared. So the data has been shared of OECD. OECD projected global growth rate of 2.9%. IMF presented global growth rate of 2.8% and 3%. Even WTO now projects world merchandise trade volume to contract by 2%, marking a notable downward of nearly 3% points from the early forecast. So WTO says global world trade will fall down. IMF and OECD says that global growth rate will also slow down in comparison to the prior projections. Last but not the least is, last but not the least is the first point which I would like to discuss over here. अगर आपको याद हो, पिछले कुछ दिनों में I have covered one news with you, and that news was India net FDI was $0.4 billion. Do you remember? And net FPI was $1.7 billion. अब ये जो नेट वर्ड है, नेट वर्ड का मतलब क्या? इनफ्लो माइनस आउटफ्लो, भी जितना पैसा अंदर आया उसमें से कितना पैसा बाहर गया, एंड ऑफ द डे जितना पैसा इंडिया में बचा, दैट इज द नेट वैल्यू. अब अगर आप देखें तो नेट इज ओनली 0.4 बिलियन, नेट इज ओनली 1.7 बिलियन. सो इंडिया, द एंटायर इकोनॉमी वाज इन शॉक. एंटायर इकोनॉमी वाज डिस्कसिंग दिस पर्टिकुलर पॉइंट कि इंडिया का नेट एफडीआई इतना कम है, इंडिया का नेट एफपीआई इतना कम है. स्टिल द गवर्नमेंट इज coming up with these statements that India is doing really very well, our FDI is boosting up. In order to answer this particular question, which is disturbing the entire public out there, Governor took the time and he answered this question. He said, FPI has sharply dropped down to $1.7 billion. That is net FPI. That is true. Net FDI investment has also moderated on account of a rise in outflow of the funds, which led to the net outward FDI, while gross FDI increased 14%. So he said, I agree that net FDI is decreasing in the country. I agree that FDI outflow is witnessed at a very high pace, but he commented, or he said one statement, he said that don't worry Indians, our gross FDI has increased by 14%. Our gross FDI has increased by 14%, and remember that this increase in outflow of the funds, repatriation का मतलब क्या होता है? When you invest the funds and then you take back your funds. आपने invest किया, then you disinvest and take back your funds. I am calling it as outflow. You can take it as disinvestment or you can take it as repatriation. So the rise in repatriation, as per Sanjay Malhotra ji, it is nothing to worry. It is a sign of mature market. जहां market mature होगी, वहां पे foreign investors, they can easily enter and exit, or they can enter and exit the market smoothly. So while gross FDI increases, it indicates that India continue to remain an attractive investment destination. तो उन्होंने क्या कहा कि भैया don't be afraid of n number of statements which are given in different newspapers or news channel, जहां पे ये कहा जा रहा है इंडिया में FDI की कमी, FDI कम हो रहा है, इंडिया का FDI जीरो हो गया, नेट इनफ्लो या नेट FDI is 0.4 billion, net FPI is 1.7 billion. He said it's nothing to worry. You just focus on the data, that is gross FDI. If gross FDI is increasing, this shows that foreign investors, they are still interested in investing in India, and India is still an attractive destination of investment. But this outflow is a sign of maturity. That means Indian market has matured over the period of time where entry and exit is very easy, very smooth, because of which we are witnessing this huge volume or value of inflows and outflows. Is this clear? So this is the data. Gross FDI inflow, it has remained, gross FDI inflow has remained high, which has witnessed 14% rise, and this year, if I talk about gross FDI 2024-25 was $81 billion, which was $71.3 billion, which has increased by 14%, but net FDI inflow is $0.4 billion, which was $10.1 billion year ago. But don't worry, it is a sign of smooth, or it is a sign of mature market. It is a sign of smooth entry and exit of the investors, as per Governor of RBI. He also said that India's forex reserves, they are around $700 billion, that is exactly $691.5 billion, which is sufficient enough to manage our 11-month of good imports, and it is capable enough to pay 96% of our external outstanding debt. That means our reserves are capable to pay off our 96% of the debt value. Last but not the least is the service sector. India's services export has witnessed a growth of 13.6% during the financial year 2024-25, whereas imports registered a growth of 11.4%, and India is positive. That is net service receipts. India export services more than import, and our net service receipts were $188 billion, which is all-time high. $188 billion, which is all-time high, which has pushed down the current account deficit, and current account deficit is around 1%. It's not exactly 1%, it is around 1%. These are the key takeaways which you can utilize while writing a descriptive answer. If this question is clear, if this point is clear, just give me yes sir so that we can conclude the discussion. I can assure you guys, इतनी जल्दी मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी की के लिए कोई सेशन, इतनी जल्दी मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी का सेशन जिसकी आप कहो कि स्पीच 10 बजे आई और 12 बजे सेशन अवेलेबल है, आई कैन अश्योर यू इतनी जल्दी इस लेवल पर इतने डिटेल में आपको सेशन कहीं नहीं मिलेगा. फर्स्ट पॉइंट. सेकंड इज even after a day or so, you can check out on different platforms. You won't be able to find the monetary policy related session in this much depth. अब अगर कोई ये सोच रहा है इतना ज्यादा डिटेल में पढ़ने की जरूरत नहीं है, तो अगर आप ध्यान से देखें तो जिस तरह से हमने इसे डिस्कस किया है, दिस विल सपोर्ट योर डिस्क्रिप्टिव आंसर राइटिंग. Is it clear? Is it clear? Thank you, Shivam. Thank you so much. So what I want is, I just want you all to hit the like button before leaving, and you can download the PDF from the scanner available on the screen. Scan it, download the PDF, and I will be catching you all in the upcoming sessions to go. Good luck. Take care. God bless you all.